It's the time to get down.
Okay, first of all, they're decommissioning, quote unquote, all 6 reactors. Okay, 4 of them have been problems, but they still have heat.
Yes.
Heat. That means, like I said, that is what they see. No one wants to say meltdown, but I did my little reading. You could Google it too. That is a meltdown.
Yes, it is.
The meltdown is when you heat up so much that you melt through the containment.
Right.
That is spilling into the ocean.
Yes.
It's all okay. That's a meltdown.
Yes, that's a meltdown.
So it's a meltdown.
Yeah, and you know what?
And you've had like probably 4 meltdowns. That's what it looks like.
And Mario, the part that they say, it's like saying you have a cold, you have a bad cold, you have a terrible cold. It's still a cold. So the bottom line is that they're not going to tell you all the details until it's post. That's just the way.
Well, this is going.
If they tell you have a cold, you more than likely got pneumonia. They're not telling you exactly everything anyway. So we know that what they're giving us is only a very small portion of what is really, really going on.
Well, it's like the
there.
BP thing, right? It's like the BP thing.
Yeah, so exactly what it's like. So when I watch the news, I realize that I'm not getting the full spectrum of what's going on, and I go ahead and add about 10% more, maybe even more than what they're saying.
Well, that's why we go to get things from foreign press. We go to Russia television.
And that's why you should watch Pat Stereo.
Different places.
Because he goes there, and then you can just comfortably
At least it's another viewpoint. You can compare it. If you want to say it's biased, well, CNN is biased. They're all biased. We're biased. Everybody's biased. It's a matter of degree. I really think that we're more honest than CNN.
Yeah, I think you're just open.
Thank you.
What's going on?
Thank you. So here's a piece. Now remember, later on this week, tomorrow specifically, we're going to be talking about homeless, the new problem of being homeless in Japan.
Which is something they don't have.
They don't know how to do. They don't have this homeless in Japan, and also we're going to be talking about the floating island. Take a look. I'll be talking about this tomorrow. That this man-made floating island to store radioactive water, just from the cleanup.
Wow.
And then what do you do with the floating island?
You just got to sit there, hoping don't break.
Melt down.
Go ahead. I was thinking that what's worse, a floating island or a regular island? But I said with Japan, with all the earthquakes they have, maybe it's better a floating island that you make. But hopefully that it can handle a tsunami, right?
Because it doesn't float around the world.
Right. Because if I look out on the horizon and here comes the floating island on the tip of a tsunami coming back at me.
Right.
That's some bad feeling.
That is a bad feeling.
That's a bad feeling. Well, here's a piece that we wanted to show you about the reactors, you all. Here we go.
No major buffering today.
Not today.
Well, crosstalk later this evening to Japan now, though. Their radiation levels in the seawater near the Fukushima plant continue to rise. They're now more than 3,500 times higher than normal. Radioactive materials also been detected in soil at the facility. Japan's government has described the situation as serious and unpredictable. Workers have been unsuccessfully trying to restore the plant's cooling system in what's now the worst atomic crisis since Chernobyl. There's been some debate, too, over whether there are any similarities.
Ouch.
Wait a minute, what happened? That was a 28-second piece, right, man?
You shouldn't have said anything about...
It's a 28-second piece, so it really does
I don't know what happened.
It's a quick highlight. I caught it.
Okay, the main thing we told you that they're going to scrap the reactors, and tomorrow the floating island. Hey, but here's a good news report, you guys. There's a dog. They found a dog. Now you know what happens. You need this emotionally.
Yeah, you do.
So they're up there in the helicopter, rescue helicopter. They ain't finding shit, And so now they see a dog running around on a piece of roof.
Really?
So they rescue the dog. They feed the dog because you need a victory.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you need something just emotionally, just a victory when you surround around that much tragedy.
Right.
That's why every rescue means so much to of course, the person being rescued.
Right.
But to the people who working tirelessly.
Yeah, hours.
Days and days with the hopes of finding one person. It's really a thankless job. But here's a wonderful piece about the dog that was found and rescued. Right up your line, DeVoe.
I like the buffer. It's the time you can smile, DeVoe.
Japanese Coast Guard circling this wreckage of a house swept away by the March 11 tsunami got quite a surprise when they came in for a closer look. Scrambling out from beneath the rubble, a dog emerges. Seeming to have defied incredible odds, The dog is believed to have survived not only the tsunami, but 3 weeks at sea as well. The house had been washed away not far from the Kesanuma coast in northern Japan when a magnitude 9 earthquake triggered a devastating tsunami. Seemingly scared by the helicopter's propellers, the dog hid under the roof of the house, forcing rescuers to descend and try to lure it to safety. It was eventually rescued by a Coast Guard boat when the helicopter reportedly ran out of fuel. Japanese broadcaster NTV said the Coast Guards were hoping the dog would help lead them to its owner. A massive search and recover operation is currently underway to find around 18,000 people still missing and now presumed dead 3 weeks after the disaster struck. Nick Rowlands, Reuters.
Good story.
So we get to see the dog
That
rescued.
made me feel good.
Yeah, that's about it.
But you know what? There's a small chance, they say, when the water comes inland and if it doesn't take you out to the next life, that when it's leaving and you have it, conscious in the water, a lot of debris, if you make it that far, which is very remote, there's a chance you may survive because you have a lot of floating debris. Higher chance, but for how long?
Yes, right. Now you've lost at sea, because that's totally be lost at sea.
Yes. With debris.
With debris.
Which means that people, as they search, wouldn't you want, if you're in water, wouldn't you want objects in the water around you? Because then it makes people sit there and say, let me see you.
At least they might see you, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Them to be floating by yourself or out there holding onto a seat. Yeah, what they call one of the flotation devices they have on the plane.
Really?
I know. Think about it. You get washed out. Your wife is on some debris on the left. You guys, your husband on the right.
Wife?
And it's I got to say wife.
Give us a more likely.
But-
Wait a minute. And it's a divorce
Somebody
settlement.
a latest.
Oh, it's divorce
It's a
settlement.
divorce settlement. And you're on, I got this. She's got that. Do you guys come together or you just keep it alone? You say, keep your ass on your eye.
Some people are ignorant enough to do that.
Rough.
But the thing, though, is that if you were floating off into the sea, you'd have a better chance of being seen earlier. Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they were.
These are all some jacked up scenarios we're comparing.
I know.
Yeah,
right?
like which one you want? How you want to die? A car accident when you mashed all up, or
Right.
you want to fall into the piranha tank? What kind of how the hell? I don't know.
I want it to happen quickly.
Lord.
Okay.
That would have died during orgasm. Like one of them. Oh! They're dead.
Look at the
That's
roll.
the way to die.
Wait a minute.
That's the way to go.
The sound effects will scare her into a heart
That's what I'm
attack.
saying.
Okay.
Just collapse on the DeVoe.
Your partner probably die along with you. What do you mean collapse on the phone?
It's a fantasy moment.
I know.
All right, take a look, you guys. Tomorrow when we come back to Japan tomorrow, then we're going to be talking about this piece. That's the floating island. And we're going to be talking about that
I
tomorrow.
think that's for.
Well, think about it. You better start planning how you're going to clean up this stuff. All right, Middle East, you all. Middle East.
Oh my God! Is this what you guys do on Mondays? Talk about this.
I know. She looking
I
for
have
good
to give
news.
the news.
I tried to tell him.
It's the
I
good
tried
news,
to
the
tell
bad
him.
news. We got the other stuff.
2/3 of his news is just
It is
not
not.
good. It's not good.
I can't. It's the world today. I just want you to know in the Middle East, okay, first of all, they had this preacher here in the U.S. had the Bible burning. The burning of the Qur'an.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that pissed off a lot of folks in a lot of countries.
Oof.
And in Afghanistan, they actually had a riot. In Afghanistan, here it is. Thank you, Tamara. In Afghanistan, they had at least 7 UN workers killed, and many others were wounded. 5 protesters supposedly also died. People took to the streets, was burning, attacking guns. Some people were carrying weapons. This all came out as a reaction to these Quran burnings. Now, they contacted Pastor Terry Jones of the Christian Fundamentalist Church in Florida, who has about probably 20 members. How do you even get news? I don't
He's
know.
gonna have more now.
He had threatened to burn copies of the Holy Book, but later backed down after receiving warnings and that he might stir up. So I guess he's happy now. Because on March 21st, he and another pastor, Wayne Sapp, burned the Quran. So now you got religious war, religious insults going around burning. I wouldn't mess with nobody's sacred stuff, you know.
Why would you want to burn?
Nobody's.
Yeah,
They
I know.
wanted to. They wanted
Might
to
just
do-
leave that sacred stuff alone.
Well,
And
what
they
the-
burned it in
think-
public too, I'm sure. This
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
a
well it's on the
sacred
internet.
thing.
Well, they took to the streets in Afghanistan, and people acting crazy.
Well, I'm trying to figure out something here. What's far worse? Remember, Mario? I asked you the question about this. I said, how does he feel? Because see, when you have this wonderful democratic country we live in, you can really talk freely. But then
Well,
it doesn't
like you say, you
extend
have free
over
speech.
to other countries. So when
Right, you
they
have free
sit there-
speech, but you better watch what you say.
repercussions. And I want to know, does he feel like, well, I'm in this country, I get to say what I want to, but
He doesn't
people-
sound that educated when he
No, I know
explains
that.
it to me.
He doesn't sound
but he
educated
didn't.
at home
But he
yet.
didn't. What he didn't do is, I'm looking for. Well, should I now commence to not saying anything because their lives directly have been.
They already
ended.
dead. No, you better just stay, because, somehow they're going to try to find a way to, if you were black, they find a way to charge your ass. They'd make up a new law and name it after you. Inciting the Foreigners to Riot Act.
Well, that's the one thing about being black. You get things named after
You get pass a new law. Well, here's the piece, you guys. Take a look. And let's see what they have to say. Now, that, to me, that doesn't excuse the people
It's easy to
for all
forget
this
that our actions can
craziness.
have unintended consequences until days like today come along. Now, on March 20th, a Florida evangelical preacher decided to make a political statement by burning the Qur'an during a service in his church. Now, today, nearly 20 people paid a heavy price for that action. They paid with their lives. Afghan protesters, furious over the Quran burning, stormed a UN compound in the normally peaceful city of Mazar al-Sharif, killing up to 20 people in the worst ever attack on UN workers in that country. Now, for a look at the blowback effect of our actions here at home and policies abroad, I'm joined by a journalist who has spent quite a bit of time in Afghanistan. Niall Shea is a writer for National Geographic magazine, and he joins us from Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've spent a lot of time in this country, and I want to begin by sort of looking at where this attack took place. This is normally a peaceful city, a northern city. This is not an area that's normally overrun by insurgents. In fact, they take quite a bit of pride in the stability in that specific city. So what are the implications for you that such an action could take place in that country, in that area?
Well, it's true. NATO and American forces haven't had a lot of trouble in Mazar-e-Sharif. It's been one of the more peaceful areas of the country. I think what we're seeing today is, or over the last few days, is just a real violent reaction against things that we cannot predict and don't really have much control over. The United States military warned against burning Qurans last year when this particular pastor said that he was going
Them
to
Christians
do it
kick ass,
because
too.
They knew that there would be a backlash in Afghanistan and around the Muslim world against American and allied forces. So that's really what we're seeing today. I don't think it has much to do with the Taliban or Al-Qaeda yet.
Why do you think there's such a short-term focus and inability to really sort of think through the consequences and understand that these kinds of actions really do lead to soldiers' lives being lost, workers' lives being lost, human beings being killed, essentially?
Well, this particular example, the church in Florida that burned this Quran is very small, and the news reports tell us that there were no more than 30 worshipers in the church when the Quran was burned. So it hardly represents a very large segment of our population in the United States. But because it's so small, that makes it a lot harder for anybody to control. Of course, we value free speech in the United States, so we would never try to prevent this church from doing this sort of activity, but clearly it has repercussions beyond the United States borders. And I don't think that the people in the church they haven't been considering that when they've decided to threaten the Quran this way. I don't think it's important to them at all.
But it almost doesn't matter if it's a small segment of the population or not, because the symbolism of this is so significant. And I guess what I want to get to is, talk a little bit about the blowback that not necessarily these extreme actions, but the broader U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East and how that affects both our